2,500 ounces, 200 pounds of pure silver, poured into a single coin. But here's what no one is telling you. The company behind it never revealed which nation actually issued it. No flag, no name, no explanation. Just silence, where transparency should have been. And in the world of money, silence is never an accident. Because when the world's most valuable metal is wrapped inside the world's most guarded secret, it's not a celebration. It's a warning. And by the end of this report, you will understand exactly what this coin is really trying to tell you. If you are someone who has lived long enough to see money change, who remembers when a dollar meant something different than it does today, then you already understand why stories like this one matter. So, before we go further, I want to ask you something, the way an old friend would ask over a cup of tea. Would you do me the honor of subscribing to this channel? Not for me, but for yourself, so you never miss the next warning hiding behind the headlines. And tell me, in the comments below, from which city, which country are you watching this from today? I would love to know who I am speaking with. Now, let us begin. On the first day of July in Austin, Texas, a room full of people gathered to witness something that Guinness World Records would soon confirm as official. A company called Texas Precious Metals, working together with Sunshine Minting, had done something no one else in history had ever done. They had created the world's heaviest silver coin. 2,500 troy ounces of pure silver, not melted into bars, not stored in a vault, poured, shaped, and stamped into a single coin. At first glance, this looks like nothing more than a proud moment for American craftsmanship. The coin was made to honor the 250th anniversary of the United States. On one side, an eagle and the Liberty Bell. On the other, the hand of the Statue of Liberty holding its torch high, with the dates 1776 and 2026 placed side by side. It looks patriotic. It looks celebratory. It looks like a tribute. But a careful observer does not stop at what something looks like. A careful observer asks a different question. Why now? Why this? And why in this exact form? Because here is something strange. The coin carries a legal tender face value of only $250. $250 printed officially on an object containing enough silver to be worth many, many times that amount in real market value. This is not a small gap. This is not a rounding error. This is a deliberate contrast. And deliberate contrasts in the financial world are rarely accidental. Think about what a coin actually represents. A coin is supposed to be a symbol of trust. A government or an institution stamps a number on a piece of metal and tells the public, this is what it is worth. People accept that number and use it to trade, to save, to measure the value of their labor. That system only works as long as people believe the number on the coin matches something real. Now, look at this coin again. Its printed value is $250. Its actual material value, based on the weight of pure silver alone, is enormous by comparison. The company did not hide this gap. They announced it publicly, with pride, in front of cameras and press releases, which raises an important question for anyone who studies money and markets carefully. Why would a private company go through the enormous cost and effort of creating a record-breaking object whose entire purpose seems to highlight how far paper value has drifted from real value? This is not a small business decision. Producing something like this requires specialized machinery, a facility built for precision, and a partnership between two established companies in the precious metals industry. It requires planning, coordination, and money. Private companies do not usually spend this kind of effort just to make headlines. They usually do it because they see an opportunity, or because they are responding to something happening in the wider economy that ordinary people have not yet noticed. The official record weight of the coin was even verified using a high-precision scale provided by an independent company as part of the strict process required by Guinness World Records. Every detail was measured, checked, and confirmed. Nothing about this was casual or accidental. This was a carefully controlled, carefully documented event. And it happened at a very specific moment. Not during a random year, not during an ordinary week. It happened during the exact anniversary of the founding of the United States, a moment when the entire nation's attention was already turned toward questions of history, value, and legacy. So the question becomes bigger than the coin itself. Is this truly a celebration of American history and craftsmanship? Or is it something else, wearing the appearance of celebration? Is it possible that an object like this, sitting quietly on display, is actually a signal about where confidence is shifting, a signal about what serious money is starting to prepare for, long before ordinary people begin to notice the changes happening around them? This report will not offer easy answers. It will not offer emotional reactions. It will examine this coin the way a serious analyst examines any unusual event in the economy, by looking past the surface and asking what pattern this event belongs to. Because in the history of money, whenever something rare, oversized, and symbolic appears in gold or silver, it has rarely stayed just a curiosity for long. Sometimes it has quietly marked the beginning of something much bigger, and that is exactly what this report intends to investigate next. History does not repeat itself in exact detail, but it often repeats itself in pattern. And if someone wants to understand what a record-breaking silver coin truly means, they must first look backward, at the other moments in history when something similar happened. In 2007, the Royal Canadian Mint produced what was then the world's largest gold coin. It weighed 100 kilograms and carried a face value of 1 million Canadian dollars, even though its real value in gold was far higher. At the time, many people saw it simply as a marketing achievement, a way for the mint to prove its skill and gain attention. Only 12 of these coins were ever made. But something else happened after that announcement. Interest in gold as a physical asset began rising sharply among investors around the world. Central banks increased their gold reserves. Everyday buyers, who had never before considered owning physical metal, began asking questions about it. Then, in the following year, the global financial system experienced one of the most severe crises in modern history. Banks collapsed, paper wealth disappeared overnight, and those who had quietly moved a portion of their money into physical gold were far better protected than those who had not. Was the coin a warning? Officially, no one ever said so, but the timing, looking backward, is impossible to ignore. This is the pattern serious analysts pay attention to. Record-breaking precious metal objects do not appear randomly, scattered evenly across history. They tend to cluster around specific periods when confidence in paper currency, in banking systems, or in national economies is quietly being questioned by those who understand markets best. The public announcement is often loud, celebratory, and wrapped in flags and national pride. But underneath that noise, a much quieter message is being communicated to those paying close attention. Physical value is becoming more important than symbolic value. This is why a coin like the one just introduced in Texas cannot be judged only by its appearance. Its size, its symbolism, its patriotic design, all of that is the surface story. The real story is what this type of event has historically preceded. There's also a psychological function behind these giant symbolic objects that deserves attention. A single dramatic, oversized coin does something that ordinary financial reports and statistics cannot do. It captures attention instantly. It creates a story people want to talk about, share, and remember. In a strange way, spectacle becomes a teaching tool. People who would never read a report on inflation or currency devaluation will still stop and stare at a 200-pound silver coin. And once their attention is captured, questions naturally follow. Why silver? Why now? Why does something so heavy in real value carry such a small number stamped onto its face? This is precisely why companies working in the precious metals industry often benefit from these spectacles. It is not simply marketing for their own products, though that is certainly part of it. It is also, intentionally or not, an early public signal placed in front of millions of eyes at a time when interest in physical assets is beginning to rise again. There's another detail worth noticing. These record-breaking objects tend to appear more frequently during periods of economic transition, times when older systems are being quietly questioned and new strategies are being tested by major financial players. Whether it was the gold coin before the 2008 crisis, or other similar record attempts throughout history involving silver, platinum, and other metals, the common thread remains the same. Attention on physical wealth increases just before or during moments of financial uncertainty. This does not mean history will repeat itself in exact form. No serious analyst claims to know the future with certainty, but patterns exist for a reason, and ignoring them has rarely served entrepreneurs, investors, or business owners well. So the emergence of this 2,500-ounce silver coin, tied so deliberately to a major national anniversary, must be viewed through this historical lens. It may simply be a proud achievement in craftsmanship, as its creators publicly claim, or it may be another entry in a long, quiet history of physical assets appearing exactly when confidence in paper systems begins to weaken beneath the surface. The next part of this investigation moves closer to a detail that has remained deliberately unclear since the coin's announcement, a detail that, once examined carefully, may reveal far more than the shining silver surface ever could. Every official announcement leaves clues, not just in what it says, but in what it deliberately leaves out. And this coin, celebrated so loudly in Texas, carries one silence that deserves far more attention than it has received. The press release praised the coin as a tribute to America's 250th anniversary. It described the eagle, the Liberty Bell, the Statue of Liberty's torch. It described the weight, the size, the record, but it never once stated which nation actually issued the coin. Not one sentence identified the country whose name and legal authority made this a real legal tender coin in the first place. This is not a minor detail. A coin does not simply exist because a company decides to pour silver into a mold. A coin becomes legal tender because a government somewhere authorizes it. stamps its seal on it, and takes responsibility for its face value. Every coin has a nation behind it. Yet here, in one of the most publicized precious metal announcements in recent memory, that single fact was left in complete silence. Anyone examining the images closely can see a seal on the coin's surface, small, distant, difficult to identify. Some believe it resembles the seal of a Pacific Island nation. Others believe it may belong to a different small territory entirely. No official source has confirmed either possibility. The company celebrated the achievement. The cameras captured the moment. Yet the most basic legal detail, the identity of the issuing authority, was never spoken aloud. Why would a company celebrate a coin tied so closely to American history, using American symbols, an eagle, a bell, a statue, and America's own semi-quincentennial date, while quietly avoiding any mention that the coin itself was not actually issued by the United States government? There's a business explanation for this pattern, one well known within the precious metals industry. Many private mints choose to issue coins through small island nations because these nations offer simpler legal processes, flexible regulations, and faster approval for large or unusual coin designs. It is often easier, faster, and less expensive to issue a record-breaking coin through a smaller nation's currency system than through a major government's strict and slow regulatory process. This explains the practical side of the decision. But it does not fully explain the silence. If the reasoning is purely practical, why not simply state it? Why allow an entire audience to assume, even briefly, that this could be an official United States coin when it clearly is not? This is where careful analysis becomes important. In business and in economics, silence is rarely accidental when large sums of money and public image are involved. Sometimes silence protects a brand. Sometimes it avoids a complicated explanation that might reduce public excitement. And sometimes silence exists because the full truth might raise questions the company would prefer people not ask. For entrepreneurs and business-minded viewers, this detail carries a lesson far bigger than one silver coin. It is a lesson about reading official announcements carefully. Public statements, press releases, and news coverage are almost always written to highlight excitement and minimize complication. The full picture is rarely handed over freely. It must be searched for, question by question, detail by detail. This pattern is not unique to the precious metals industry. It happens in real estate deals, in corporate mergers, in investment offerings, and in government financial statements. The information that is left out often matters more than the information that is proudly announced. So this coin, wrapped in patriotic imagery, yet legally distant from the nation it appears to represent, becomes more than a curious record. It becomes a small case study in how modern financial announcements are constructed, what they choose to reveal, and what they quietly choose to hide. And once this pattern becomes visible in one story, it becomes almost impossible to ignore in every other financial headline that follows. Every pattern examined so far leads to one final question. The question that matters most to entrepreneurs, business owners, and anyone responsible for protecting wealth in uncertain times. What should be done with this information? History has shown again and again that record-breaking precious metal events rarely stand alone. They tend to appear near turning points, moments when confidence in paper currency, banking systems, or national economies begins shifting beneath the surface, long before ordinary headlines catch up to the change. The 2007 giant gold coin from Canada was followed by one of the most severe financial crises in modern history. This does not prove that every similar event predicts a crisis, but it does prove that these events deserve attention rather than dismissal. For a business owner, this attention is not about fear. It is about awareness. Markets rarely announce their turning points with clear warnings. Instead, they leave behind small signals, unusual events, silences, and symbols, scattered across financial and cultural headlines. A silver coin the size of nothing seen before, tied to a national anniversary, verified by independent scales, and quietly issued through an undisclosed foreign authority, is exactly this kind of signal. What does this mean practically? It means diversification matters more than ever. Businesses and individuals who rely entirely on paper currency, digital balances, and single-country financial systems place their entire future in one basket. Physical assets, historically, have provided a form of protection when confidence in paper systems weakens. This is not a suggestion to panic or to abandon traditional finance. It is a reminder that balance, not blind trust, protects wealth over the long term. It also means paying closer attention to what large financial players are doing, not only what they are saying. Companies do not usually spend enormous resources creating record-breaking physical objects without a reason connected to where they believe value is heading. When private companies choose silver, choose secrecy around issuing authority, and choose to time their announcement around a symbolic national anniversary, they are revealing something about their own expectations, whether or not they say so directly. For young entrepreneurs building their first ventures, and for established business owners managing larger operations, the lesson is the same. Read beyond headlines. Question silence as carefully as statements. Recognize that symbolic events, a giant coin, a record announcement, a celebration, often carry quieter economic messages beneath their surface excitement. This does not mean converting every decision into fear-driven action. It means developing the discipline to observe carefully, ask deeper questions, and avoid assuming that celebration always equals safety. The most successful business decisions throughout history have often come from those who noticed unusual patterns early, while the majority of the public remained focused only on the surface story. The world's heaviest silver coin will likely be remembered as an impressive achievement in craftsmanship and record-setting precision. But for those willing to look closer, it may also be remembered as one more marker in a long, quiet history. A moment when physical value quietly reminded the world that paper promises are not the same as real worth. Whether this coin marks the beginning of a larger shift, only time will confirm. But history suggests one thing clearly. When silver this heavy enters the spotlight, it rarely does so by accident.